The desert keeps its secrets. November 1958. British oil prospectors are flying a routine survey over the Libyan Sahara, 400 miles south of the Mediterranean coast, when their aircraft passes over something impossible. A massive shape rises from the sand, casting a long shadow across the dunes. Metal. American markings. Wings spread wide like a raptor frozen mid-flight. It's a B-24 Liberator bomber, sitting upright on the desert floor as if it had landed there yesterday morning. When they circle back for a second pass, the pilot leans forward in his seat, squinting through the glare. The plane is intact, not a wreck, a preservation. The aluminum skin gleams silver-white in the sun. The propellers stand motionless but unbroken. There is no char, no impact crater, no scattered debris field. Just a ghost sitting perfectly still in an ocean of sand, waiting. They radio it in. Within days, a British petroleum survey team reaches the site on foot. They approach cautiously, half expecting the thing to dissolve like a mirage. But it holds solid, real. When they climb inside the fuselage, the heat is staggering, metal baking in 130-degree air. But what they find is more unsettling than the temperature. The interior is pristine. Machine guns swivel smoothly in their turrets, mechanisms still oiled and functional. The radio equipment sits ready, switches in the off position but otherwise undamaged. Emergency rations remain neatly stacked in their storage compartments. Water canteens hang from their hooks, still half full, the water inside drinkable. Parachutes are missing from their packs, but everything else remains exactly where it was stowed. There are personal effects: a thermos, a jacket, even a package of cigarettes. The crew of 9 is entirely missing. On the fuselage exterior, painted in white block letters, is the bomber's name: Lady Be Good. The discovery makes no sense. Standard procedure in a desert emergency is simple, brutal, and non-negotiable: stay with the aircraft. It provides shade, shelter, visibility from the air. It is your best chance, often your only chance, of rescue. Walking into the Sahara is suicide, and every military airman knows this. Yet here sits a functioning shelter with water and supplies, and somewhere out there, 9 men chose to abandon it. Why? Question haunts the British team as they photograph the scene and catalog the contents. They find the aircraft logbook, flight maps, even the bombardier's notes from the mission. Everything points to April 1943, 15 years earlier, when the North African campaign was grinding toward its conclusion, and American bombers were flying raids deep into Axis territory. But what happened to the crew? The answer, when it finally comes, will reveal one of the most agonizing survival marches in military history. A story of bad luck, worse decisions, and the unforgiving mathematics of human endurance pushed past its breaking point. It will take years to reconstruct, piece together from scattered remains, diary entries, and the testimony of sand itself. But in November 1958, standing in the cargo bay of the Lady Be Good, the British survey team knows only this: 9 men walked away from safety into the largest desert on Earth, and the desert swallowed them whole. To understand what happened, you have to go back. April 4, 1943. Saluch Airfield, Libya. The airbase sits on flat scrubland south of Benghazi, a sprawling collection of tents, maintenance hangars, and packed dirt runways shimmering in the afternoon heat. It's the home of the 376th Bombardment Group, the Liberandos, and on this particular Sunday, 25 B-24 Liberators are being prepped for a night raid on the harbor at Naples, Italy. The Lady Be Good is one of them. She's a relatively new aircraft, fresh enough that her aluminum skin still gleams, but she's been assigned a green crew. First combat mission. 9 men, most of them barely out of their teens, pulled together from different training squadrons and told to function as a unit under fire. They've practiced the procedures, flown the simulators, memorized the routes. But this is different. This is real. The pilot is First Lieutenant William Hatton, 23 years old, serious and methodical. He's been described by his training instructors as competent but cautious, not a natural flyer but reliable. His co-pilot is Second Lieutenant Robert Toner, 24, more extroverted, quicker to laugh. The rest of the crew fills out the standard complement: navigator, bombardier, radio operator, engineer, 3 gunners. They're scheduled to take off at dusk. Mission briefing is straightforward. Fly north over the Mediterranean, bomb the harbor installations at Naples, return to Salyut. Total flight time approximately 7 hours. Navigation will be by dead reckoning, calculating position based on speed, time, and compass heading, because this is 1943 and radar is still primitive. The crews will rely on celestial navigation, checking their position against the stars, and hopefully picking up radio beacons on the return leg. Weather is expected to be clear. At 18:30 hours, the bombers begin their takeoff sequence. One by one, the heavy aircraft lumber down the runway and claw their way into the darkening sky, forming up into loose formation as they head north toward the coast. The Asterisk Lady Be Good Asterisk lifts off without incident, her 4 Pratt & Whitney engines roaring in synchronized thunder. They disappear into the Mediterranean night. By dawn, 24 bombers have returned to Salyut. The Asterisk Lady Be Good Asterisk does not come back. The mission goes wrong from the start. Over the Mediterranean, the bomber formation encounters weather that wasn't supposed to be there, a front moving south faster than predicted, bringing clouds and turbulence that breaks up the neat geometric patterns of aircraft. The crews lose visual contact with each other, swallowed by darkness and scattered across miles of night sky. This isn't catastrophic. The briefing covered it. Each bomber is trained to continue independently, hit the target, return home. The Asterisk Lady Be Good Asterisk presses on. They reach Naples around midnight. The harbor is lit up with searchlights and anti-aircraft fire, tracer rounds arcing up through the darkness like deadly fireworks. The bombardier, Second Lieutenant John Warefka, lines up his approach while the aircraft bucks and shudders from nearby flak bursts. The bomb bay doors open. The payload drops, 12 500-pound general-purpose bombs tumbling toward the docks below. Mission accomplished. Now they just have to get home. Lieutenant Hatton banks the Asterisk Lady Be Good Asterisk south, back toward Libya. The navigator, Second Lieutenant D.P. Hayes, hunches over his charts with a flashlight, plotting their course. Dead reckoning in 1943 is as much art as science. You measure airspeed, factor in estimated wind direction, mark time intervals, and hope your calculations are close. Every few minutes, you update your position on the map, drawing lines and making corrections. But tonight, the wind is stronger than predicted. Much stronger. A sandstorm has developed over the Libyan coast, invisible in the darkness, a massive system pushing north with winds exceeding 50 miles per hour. The Asterisk Lady Be Good Asterisk is flying into a headwind that cuts their ground speed dramatically, but from inside the cockpit, there's no way to know this. The airspeed indicator shows their speed through the air, not over the ground. They think they're covering distance. They're actually crawling. Hayes makes his calculations based on the wrong assumptions. On his chart, he marks their position steadily progressing south over the Mediterranean, tracking back towards Salyut airfield. In reality, they're barely past the Libyan coastline, fighting wind the entire way, burning fuel over empty desert instead of open water. Around 2 in the morning, they should be approaching the coast. Hatton tries to raise Salyut on the radio, requesting a bearing. Static. He tries again. More static. The radio operator, Staff Sergeant Robert Lamott, cycles through frequencies, attempting to pick up the airfield's beacon. Nothing. This is concerning but not yet alarming. Radio equipment in 1943 is temperamental. Atmospheric conditions affect transmission. They've trained for this scenario. If you can't raise the tower, you navigate by time and heading, watch for the coastline, find the airfield visually. Hatton checks his fuel gauges. They're getting low, but there's enough to reach Salyut with a comfortable margin. He continues south. Beneath them, invisible in the absolute darkness, the Sahara stretches endlessly. No lights, no landmarks, no reference points, just sand, rock, and more sand, rolling away toward the interior of the continent. They're flying over one of the most desolate regions on Earth, and they don't know it. At approximately 2:30, Hayes calculates they should be over the Mediterranean, well past the Libyan coast, possibly even south of it. According to his dead reckoning, they've overshot Salyut. Hatton makes a command decision, standard procedure in this situation. He turns the aircraft around, heading back north, expecting to cross the coastline and then turn east to parallel the shore until they spot the airfield. They fly north for another 30 minutes. Still no coastline. Still no lights. Still no radio contact. The fuel gauges continue their steady decline. Inside the cockpit, the tension is climbing. Something is fundamentally wrong with their position, but they can't figure out what. The mathematics says they should be over water, or at least near the coast. The reality says they're nowhere near anything recognizable. It's like the entire geography of North Africa has shifted. By 3 o'clock in the morning, the needle on the fuel gauge is dropping into the red zone. They've been in the air for over 8 hours, far longer than the mission was supposed to take. The engines are still running smoothly, but the margin for error has evaporated. Hatton makes another decision. He orders the crew to prepare to bail out. The men react with the mechanical efficiency of training. They don their parachutes, check the harness straps, move toward the positions they've rehearsed. The bombardier opens the forward escape hatch. Cold air screams into the fuselage. Below them is total darkness, no moon, no stars visible through the cloud cover. No sense of what terrain waits below. They think they're bailing out over the Mediterranean Sea. They think rescue will be a matter of hours. Inflate the life rafts, fire flares, wait for the Navy to pick them up. Ditching in the Mediterranean is dangerous but survivable. Standard procedure. They've trained for this. What they don't realize is that they're 400 miles inland, above the most hostile desert environment on the planet, with nothing but sand in every direction for hundreds of miles. At approximately 3:30 in the morning on April 5, 1943, the crew of the Asterisk Lady Be Good Asterisk jumps into darkness. All 9 parachutes deploy successfully. The men drift down through the black air, harnesses cutting into their shoulders, wind rushing past their ears. Some of them are probably praying. Some are probably calculating their odds. All of them are expecting to hit water. Their boots hit sand instead. The impact is hard, unexpected. Several men roll awkwardly, the technique for landing on solid ground instead of water. They struggle out of their parachute harnesses, calling out to each other in the darkness, trying to regroup. Slowly, as their eyes adjust, they begin to understand where they are. Not water, not coast, sand. Endless sand, barely visible in the pre-dawn darkness. They're in the desert. The sun rises on their situation like a sentencing. In the gray pre-dawn light, the 9 men of the Asterisk Lady Be Good Asterisk gather themselves, taking stock. They're bruised from the landing but mostly uninjured, remarkable luck given the night jump. Staff Sergeant Harold Ripslinger has a badly sprained ankle. The others are mobile. Around them, the landscape reveals itself in stages. First, the immediate surroundings. A flat plain of packed sand and scattered rock stretching away in every direction. Then, as the light strengthens, the horizon, a perfectly flat line where sand meets sky broken by nothing. No trees, no vegetation, no water, no roads, no structures, nothing. The silence is immense. Lieutenant Hatton conducts a quick inventory. Between the 9 of them, they have the contents of their survival kits. A few canteens of water, maybe a gallon total. Some emergency rations, malted milk tablets, a few chocolate bars. A first aid kit, signal flares. 1 parachute salvaged and bundled. Their service pistols. No compass that stayed with the aircraft. 1 gallon of water for 9 men in the Sahara Desert. The immediate question is obvious. Where is the Asterisk Lady Be Good Asterisk? They heard no explosion, saw no fireball. The aircraft still had fuel when they jumped. It should have continued on autopilot until the tanks ran dry and the engines quit. But which direction did it go? In the darkness and confusion of the bailout, they lost orientation. Some of the crew think it continued south. Others insist it was turning when they jumped. The decision before them is simple and terrible. Wait here for rescue or walk. Hatton makes the call. They'll walk north back toward the coast. According to the navigator's last estimate, they overshot Salyut, which means the Mediterranean should be north of their position. Maybe 50 miles, maybe 100. The exact distance is unclear, but north is the direction that leads to civilization, to water, to rescue. What they don't know, what they can't know, is that Hayes's navigation was off by more than 300 miles. They're not south of the airfield. They're south of the entire inhabited region of Libya, deep into the Hamada El Hamra, the Red Desert, a region so remote that even the Bedouin avoid it. But they don't know this, so they walk. The first day is almost tolerable. The sun is brutal, temperatures climbing past 110 degrees by mid-morning, but they're still hydrated, still strong. They ration the water carefully, a few sips per man every few hours. They walk in the relative cool of early morning, rest during the worst heat of midday in whatever shade they can improvise with the parachute, then walk again in the afternoon. The terrain is deceptive. It looks flat, but it's not. Subtle rises and depressions, fields of small stones that turn ankles, patches of soft sand that suck at boots. Each step requires effort. The men are carrying full flight suits, leather jackets, survival gear. Within hours, they're discarding items to lighten the load. Jackets, extra rations, anything not immediately essential. Ripslinger, with his injured ankle, falls behind. Two of the crew stay with him, helping him along. The group begins to spread out across the desert, gaps opening between the faster and slower walkers. By nightfall of the first day, they've covered maybe 15 miles. They make camp in the open. There's nothing to make camp against, and try to sleep on the cold sand. The temperature drops dramatically after sunset, 50 degrees or more. They're shivering in the darkness, huddled together for warmth, the same heat that punished them during the day now absent when they need it. Second Lieutenant Robert Toner, the co-pilot, begins keeping a diary. He has a small notebook in his flight suit pocket and a pencil. The entries are brief, factual, the observations of a man trying to maintain structure in chaos. Sunday, April 4, 1943. Naples. 25 planes. Got lost returning, out of gas, jumped. Landed in desert at 2 a.m. Dates are wrong. He's confused about when they took off, but the facts are accurate. 9 men. Walking north. Low on water. The second day is harder. The water is more than half gone. They're drinking less now, trying to stretch it, but their bodies are demanding more. The heat is relentless, radiating up from the sand, pressing down from the sky. Several men are showing signs of dehydration, headaches, dizziness, dry mouths. They're urinating less, and when they do, it's dark and concentrated. The landscape never changes. Same sand. Same flat horizon. Same absolute emptiness. It's psychologically devastating, this sameness. There's no sense of progress, no landmarks to measure distance against. They could be walking in circles and wouldn't know it. Ripslinger can't continue. His ankle is swollen, possibly broken. 2 men stay with him again, but the group is fracturing. Some want to push ahead faster. Others want to slow down, conserve energy. Hatton tries to hold them together, but command structure is eroding under the pressure of survival. Toner writes, Monday, rested at 7:30, walked all day, 15 miles, night very cold, no sleep. Day 3 brings the first real crisis. The water is nearly gone, maybe 2 cups total for 9 men. They're all showing advanced dehydration now, lips cracking, skin losing elasticity. The younger men are faring slightly better, but everyone is suffering. They're rationing by tiny sips, wetting their mouths more than actually drinking. And still, the desert stretches on, unchanging, indifferent. Hatton makes a desperate decision. He proposes splitting the group. The strongest walkers will push ahead quickly, try to reach the coast, send back rescue. The slower ones will follow at their own pace, conserving what little water remains. It's a reasonable plan. It's also a death sentence, though no one wants to say it. 5 men, the stronger walkers, press ahead. 4 remain behind with Ripslinger. Toner is with the forward group. His diary entry is shorter now. Tuesday. Rested, walked 20 miles, no water. No water. The point of no return has passed. The body begins to fail in predictable stages. Day 4. The 5 men in the forward group are no longer walking. They're stumbling, a mechanical shuffle that covers maybe a mile per hour. Their tongues are swollen, coating their mouths with a thick paste that makes speaking difficult. Their eyes have sunken back into their skulls. The skin on their faces is drawn tight, lips split and bleeding. Every breath feels like inhaling hot sand. Toner still writes, though his handwriting is deteriorating. Wednesday. Same place. 1 cup of water. Drank all our water. That single cup shared among 5 men. Barely enough to wet their throats. It's gone within minutes, and the relief it provides evaporates almost immediately under the hammer of the sun. The human body is approximately 60% water. Lose 3% and you experience thirst. 5% brings dry mouth and reduced urination. 10% causes dizziness, headaches, difficulty breathing. At 15% loss, the skin shrinks, the eyes sink, the blood thickens. 20% is fatal. The men of the Lady Be Good are approaching that final threshold. They're experiencing hallucinations now, mirages that aren't just visual tricks but full sensory deceptions. Some of them see water, lakes shimmering on the horizon. Others see the airfield, buildings and tents wavering in the heat. Technical Sergeant Harold Moore swears he can hear engines, rescue aircraft circling overhead. They stop and wave, shouting, firing their pistols into the air until someone realizes the sky is empty. The worst part is the hope. Each mirage brings a surge of desperate hope, and when it dissolves back into sand, the psychological crash is devastating. It would be easier, perhaps, if the landscape offered nothing. But the desert is cruel enough to keep offering phantom salvation. Day 5. Toner's entry is fragmentary. Thursday. Hit sand dunes. Still no water. Night very cold. No sleep. The dunes are a new kind of torture. Up until now, the terrain has been relatively flat. Hard, packed sand and gravel. But now they've reached the the true sand sea, where dunes rise 50 feet high and the surface shifts beneath their boots. Climbing a dune in their condition requires superhuman effort. They crawl up on hands and knees, gasping, then slide and stumble down the far side, only to face another dune immediately after. One of the men, Second Lieutenant John Warafka, the bombardier, collapses at the base of a dune and can't get up. The others try to help him, but they don't have the strength. They sit beside him, waiting for him to recover, but he doesn't. His breathing is shallow, irregular. His pulse is weak and rapid. They make the decision to leave him. Not callously, they simply have no choice. They can't carry him, and staying means dying together. They arrange him in the shade of the parachute fabric, leave him one of the pistols, and promise to send help. It's a promise they can't keep. 4 men continue north. Toner writes, Friday. Warafka died. Still going north. The entry is matter-of-fact, stripped of emotion. There's no capacity left for grief. Only the mechanical recording of facts, as if by writing them down, Toner can maintain some thread of sanity. Day 6 brings another loss. Staff Sergeant Robert Lamont, the radio operator, begins talking to people who aren't there. His mother, his high school girlfriend, someone named Jimmy. The hallucinations have fully taken over. He wanders off course, heading west instead of north, and when the others call to him, he doesn't respond. He walks into the dunes and disappears. 3 men left. Hatton Toner and Technical Sergeant Harold Moore. They're beyond thirst now. Thirst is a signal from the body saying it needs water. What they are experiencing is cellular collapse, organs beginning to shut down, blood turning to sludge, the brain misfiring as neurons fail. They're walking corpses, kept moving only by some primal momentum, the body's last desperate attempt to find salvation. Toner's handwriting is barely legible. Saturday. Still in W, sun very hot. No water. Day 7. More collapses. Unlike Warafka, who went slowly, Moore simply stops. One moment he's walking, the next he's on his knees, then flat on his face. Hatton and Toner try to rouse him, shaking him, shouting in his ear, but there's no response. He's still breathing, but he's gone somewhere they can't reach. They leave him there. They don't even use the parachute for shade anymore. They abandoned it miles back, too heavy to carry. Moore lies in the open sun, alone. 2 men continue. Hatton and Toner, they don't speak anymore. They can't. Their throats are too dry, their tongues too swollen. They communicate in gestures, if they communicate at all. Mostly they just walk, or what passes for walking. A few steps, a rest. A few more steps, another rest. Progress measured in yards, not miles. Day 8. Sunday, April 11. A full week since they bailed out. Toner makes his final diary entry. The words are shaky, barely coherent. Sunday, still praying. Hatton can't go much further. That's where the diary ends. Not with some profound final message, not with coordinates or instructions, but with a simple statement of fact. Hatton can't go much further. The notebook is found later clutched in Toner's hand, his body arranged carefully on the sand, boots placed side by side, flight jacket folded as a pillow. Even in the final moments, military precision. The training holds. Hatton's body is discovered 100 yards away, in almost the same position. They died within hours of each other, possibly minutes. 8 days after bailout, approximately 85 miles from where they landed. The human body, it turns out, can push further than science says it should, but not far enough, never far enough. Back at the landing site, the 4 men who stayed behind with Ripslinger met the same fate, though faster. Without water and without the hope of movement, they lasted perhaps for days. But this isn't the end of the story, because 2 men went in a different direction. The discovery of the asterisk lady Be Good asterisk in 1958 triggers one of the most extensive desert search operations in military history. When the British oil prospectors report the ghost bomber, the U.S. Air Force responds immediately. This isn't just an aircraft recovery. It's a chance to bring 9 missing airmen home, men who have been listed as missing in action for 15 years, their families never receiving closure, never knowing what happened after that night over the Mediterranean. In February 1959, a joint American-British search team returns to the site. They document everything: the pristine interior, the functioning equipment, the water that should have saved lives. But more importantly, they begin searching the surrounding desert for the crew. They find the parachutes first, scattered across a wide area south of the aircraft. This tells them the bailout was successful. The men survived the jump. But where did they go? The searchers spread out in a grid pattern, walking transects across the sand, looking for any sign: fabric, metal, bones. The Sahara is vast, but it also preserves. In this climate, bodies don't decompose the way they do in humid environments. They mummify, desiccate, become part of the landscape. 26 miles north of the asterisk lady Be Good asterisk, they find the first bodies. 5 men arranged in a rough circle, their remains scattered by years of wind and the occasional desert scavenger. Near them they find discarded equipment, parachute fabric, pieces of flight suits, empty canteens. And in the hand of one body they find Toner's diary. The diary is the key that unlocks the entire tragedy. Reading those terse entries, asterisk walked all day, no water, still praying asterisk, the search team begins to understand the scope of what happened. These men didn't die in a plane crash. They survived the bailout, made rational decisions based on bad information, and walked themselves to death. But the diary accounts for only 5 of the 9 crew members. Where are the others? The search expands. Aerial surveys, ground teams pushing further north, following the trajectory the crew would have taken. Days turn into weeks. The desert yields its secrets slowly. In May 1959, they find 3 more bodies clustered within a few miles of each other near the original landing site: Ripslinger and the men who stayed with him. They died faster, unable to walk, waiting for rescue that never came. 8 bodies accounted for, 1 still missing. The search continues into 1960. The military brings in more resources, more personnel. They're determined to find the last man to complete the story. The families deserve that much. In August 1960, 78 miles north of where Hatton and Toner died, they find Staff Sergeant Guy Shelley. He's alone, further than anyone thought possible. The discovery stuns the search team. From the bailout site to Shelley's final position is approximately 109 miles, some sources say as much as 115 miles, in the Sahara. In April heat, without water. The implications are staggering. After the group split, after Hatton and Toner died, Shelley kept walking. Alone. For days, possibly a week or more. The human body should not be capable of this. Every medical model says it's impossible. A person can survive 3 days without water in moderate conditions, maybe 4 in exceptional cases. Shelley survived more than twice that, walking through a furnace. But he did it. His remains prove it. The distance proves it. Near Shelley they find Flight Officer John Warefka, the bombardier who was left behind earlier in the trek. He made it further than anyone expected before he finally collapsed. 9 men accounted for. The search is complete. The military analysis that follows is detailed and unflinching. The report reconstructs every decision, every mile, every fatal assumption. The navigational error is calculated precisely. The asterisk lady Be Good asterisk flew approximately 440 miles inland before the crew bailed out. The sandstorm winds pushed them south while they thought they were flying north. When they turned around, they flew even deeper into the desert. If they had stayed with the aircraft, they might have survived. The plane landed itself gently when the fuel ran out, Gear up, minimal damage, sitting upright. It had shade, supplies, visibility. Search aircraft did fly over the area in the days after the disappearance, though they missed the bomber. But the crew, scattered across miles of sand, had no chance of being spotted. The decision to walk was logical based on what they believed. They thought the coast was close. They thought rescue would come quickly. Every assumption was reasonable and every assumption was wrong. The asterisk Lady Be Good asterisk is eventually recovered, piece by piece, and portions of it are displayed in museums. The aircraft becomes famous, the ghost bomber, the perfectly preserved time capsule. But the real story isn't the plane, it's the men. In 1960, the crew members are buried with full military honors, some in Arlington National Cemetery, others in their hometowns. The families finally get closure, 15 years after the telegram that said, "Missing in action," arrived on their doorsteps. The Libyan desert keeps other secrets still. Aircraft and vehicles and men from a dozen different wars, swallowed by sand and silence. But the asterisk Lady Be Good asterisk stands apart, not because of the mystery of its preservation, but because of what it reveals about human endurance and the mathematics of survival. 9 men walked into the Sahara believing rescue was close. They pushed their bodies past every reasonable limit, walking distances that shouldn't be survivable. Guy Shelley walked further than any medical textbook says is possible, driven by hope or stubbornness or sheer refusal to surrender. But the desert doesn't care about hope. It doesn't measure courage or determination. It only measures water, and they didn't have enough. The last entry in Toner's diary, asterisk still praying asterisk, isn't about religious faith, though perhaps that's part of it. It's about the refusal to give up, even when the body is failing and the mind is fracturing, and every rational calculation says the fight is over. They walked 109 miles. They survived 8 days. They never stopped moving north, toward home, toward water, toward salvation that remained forever just beyond the next dune. The desert won, as it always does. But the men of the asterisk Lady Be Good asterisk didn't make it easy.